Okay. So before we begin this session, today's session, any questions? Okay, I think there are no questions. Yeah, let's start, guys. So let's start with a very basic funda, which is like variables in Java, right? So any data, if you want to store in Java, memory allocation, which happens with respect to variables, right? So there are two types of variables. One is a primitive variable, where you assign the data like int, double, right, char. So we have boolean, right, and we have short. So there are totally 8 types of primitive types are present. It all starts something like this: byte, short, int, long, double, char, boolean, short. Right. So these are all primitive types. So each primitive type has a particular memory space. For example, if you use byte, then 1 bit memory will be allocated. If you use short, right, then uh, 2 byte memory will be allocated. Right. If you are using int, 4 bytes. If you are using long, then 8 bytes. Right. So similarly for double, we missed one more thing, float, right? Float. If you are using floating type, then 4 bytes. Double, it's again 8 bytes, right? Char, again it's 2 bytes. Boolean, it's a constant actually. Only allowed values for Boolean are true and false. That's it. Right? Short again, it's like 2 bytes. So this is how the memory is going to be allocated in our Java, right? So we also have some other variables called reference variables. Whenever we are working with the class type, I hope you know class, what is object. That is a prerequisite for this training. So, but just to brush up all the core concepts and just talking all these things. So whenever we are working with the class type, so then the reference variables will come into the picture. For example, string s equals to new string. So here s is considered as a reference variable, right? And whenever not only string, it can be anything like user also fine. So user, small user is going to be a reference variable. And whenever we are using a new operator, we know, right, what is going to happen in the background. Can somebody say what exactly is going to happen whenever we use a new operator?
You assign a memory.
Exactly. But where? Whenever we use a new operator, there certain memory will be allocated, right? But where the memory will be
In heap space.
allocated? Pardon, I couldn't able to hear. Sorry. Can you repeat?
Yes. Yeah, you are not able to hear me?
Yeah, now it is clear.
Heap, I said.
Exactly. It's the memory will be allocated in the heap memory, right? Yeah. So there is certain memory will be allocated. How the user memory will be allocated depends upon how the user class is defined. For example, user has int id, string name. So how the memory will be allocated? For int, it's a 4 bytes. And for string, each character 1 byte will be allocated, right? For each char, again, it's 1 byte will be allocated. So for my string has 5 characters, then 5 bytes will be allocated. So that's how the memory allocation is going to happen, right? So this is all about data types and reference variables. Now let's see how we can define these variables in a class. Look at this section very carefully. We have a class user, okay, or let's make as employee, okay, and you define something like this: int id, string name. This is what we usually do, right, in our day-to-day activity. String name. So can somebody say what type of variable we defined here? One is primitive type. right? And another one is reference type. But these two are instance variables, right? Instance variables or global variables. I can say global variables. For example, if I add one more variable called static string company name, then what is the company name here? This is a static variable. We have a clear classification between instance variable and classic static variable. So can somebody say, why should I define ID and name as non-static and company name as static? Why did I use a static variable for company name? There should be some reason, right? Without reason, why we can't write the code. So now tell me, why should I use a static keyword for company, and why did I use for ID and name? Because whenever you mark any variable with a static keyword, what will happen? There is a benefit we're gonna get. For example, if I don't mark it as static, what is the problem?
You have to create an object to access that particular variable.
Yes. For example, if my company has like uh, 10 million employees, right? If in my company there are 10 million employees are working, then I'll create 10 million employee objects, right? I'll create 10 million employee objects. So each employee object, so which is nothing but I'm creating 10 million employee objects in my heap memory, right? Again, each employee object is going to have three properties. One is ID, how much memory? 4 bytes, right? 4 bytes. I'll mark as something like this, okay? And name, for example, all my employee names, I'm giving some kind of standard, right? Minimum 5 characters, maximum 10 characters, or else something like that. So minimum 5 bytes of memory or maximum 10 bytes of memory, my employee name is going to have, right? At the same time, when I go for company names, for example, the company name something like this, right? MSKPVT Limited, something like this. Okay. For example, I'm just telling you. So let me remove the spaces and use hyphens. Okay. How many bytes of memory we're going to allocate? 3339 to 11, right? There are 11 bytes of memory we're going to allocate it. So if I don't mark it as static, right? So for each object, I am allocating 11 bytes of memory. 11 bytes into 10 million. It's a very huge memory we are allocating for one company name, right? And the most probably in my company, this is not going to be changed, right? MSK Private Limited. Let's make it as Google for example, right? So the name Google is not going to be changed. The company name is not going to change for the employees who work in that company, right? Let's go for another example like Aadhaar card, right? Whenever we are working such a big country like India, 130 billion people, right? 130 crore people, sorry, 130 crore people are present, right? If you do a small mistake, for example, you are writing some code, something like this, public class citizen. So citizen name won't change, will be varied. So you can mark it as string name, fine. But if you do a small mistake, something like this, private string country name, right? What is the problem? So country name, India is a five bytes, right? 130 crore into 5 bytes of memory is going to waste, right? So what we are doing, we are
Sunil,
wasting. Yeah.
in between, in middle of this session, we are not able to hear your voice. Is it happening only to me or is it for everyone?
Not sure. What about others? Is everybody able to hear me properly?
Yeah, it was okay for me.
Okay.
But somebody is not on mute, so we're getting some noise.
Yeah, so I want to mute all. So whenever I ask any question, you mute yourself and answer the question, and unmute and answer the question and go for it. Okay. Yeah. So for example, if I wrote a class something like this, so India 5 bytes into 130 crore, right? 130 crore, such huge memory we are going to waste. So how can we solve the problem when the property value is not going to be changed? The country name is not going to be changed for this 130 crore people. At the same time, for these 10 million people, this company name is not going to be changed, right? To solve these kind of problems, what we do, we use static, right? So when you use the static, what is going to be happen? There are, even though there are 10 million objects are going to be created for employee, all these 10 million employee object is going to share the same copy of company, okay. So what is the benefit we're going to get? Even though we are creating 10 million employee objects, I'm not going to waste my for my company name property, I'm not going to waste 11 bytes into 10 million. No, that is not the case. I'm just going to waste only 11 bytes. When it is coming to the citizen in India, whenever we are working for a project like Aadhaar card, I don't waste a memory 5 bytes into 130 crore. No, that is not the case. What I will do, I just waste only 5 bytes, and all my 130 crore citizen instances will be using the same copy of country name. That is what is the benefit with the static keyword. Okay, so whenever we are using a static variable in your class, what is the benefit you're gonna get? You're gonna get memory utilization properly happens, right? You're gonna get the benefit in terms of memory. So when you have benefit, you also have some kind of challenges, right? When you get a benefit of memory, there are some certain kind of challenges we have. Can somebody say one challenge with the static keyword? Is it clear for everybody? Or if it is,
Yeah, sir.
yeah, if it is confusing, then I will try to explain in some diagrammatical way. This is a core concept. That's why I'm not explaining by using any image, because as we are already working in Java for a couple of years, right? We know this already, how it works. Is it clear? Shall I continue and discuss about challenges using static keyword? Come on, guys. Let's make the session as interactive. It's not something.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sunil, it's clear.
Yeah. So the challenge we're gonna face if we use static keyword, it is a single copy. For example, there is one person, right? One developer who didn't change this Google to Google One or Google Two. What will happen? This will give a trouble, right? For example, whenever we are working a Aadhaar card project in India, right? One developer made a mistake. What did he do? Like he did something like this: citizen dot country name, right? Country name equals to park. My God, we can't even imagine what is going to happen, right? For all 130 crore people, the country name is going to be changed, right? So this is a kind of terrible thing. If one object is trying to change the value for this particular variable, it is going to give impact to all the 130 crore people. So this is one of the biggest challenge, right? And I don't know whether you focused or not. Here I am calling directly variable with the class name. That is one of the feature of static variable. Any static variable, any static method can be directly accessed through it class name itself. I will tell why after some time. Okay, why we have this feature only for static variable? Why not for instance variable or global variable? We will discuss in next couple of minutes. But the main challenge is if any person or any where if the value of this particular variable got changed. Okay, I will remove this. One sec, okay. If any person is going to change this value, it will give impact to all the object of that particular class type, right? So to avoid these kind of problems, we make static always with final. So when it is final, nobody can change it. If some silly developer, right, trying to change the country name to US or some other name, we will say, hey boss, for the citizens who are in India, we can't change the value. So that is what is the solution. The challenge is impact. So if any person change the value of static variable, right, so it's going to give impact to all the objects. To avoid these kind of problems, we do mix static will always with final. That is what you are saying in your projects. Okay, so wherever you see static, most of the times, like 99% of the times, you see a final variable, right? So static, if static is our Indian movie hero, so we will always have a friend Joker, right? So for example, in this in Telugu, so when static is hero, we will always have a comedy friend with this. So that's this is the most favorite combination in Java: static and final. So why we use this final? So there is some reason, because if somebody is trying to change the value, it will give trouble to all the objects. So we don't want to get the trouble. So that's why we always define static and final. So when you mark it as final, we can restrict, right? We can restrict. Once you assign the value, you cannot change the value. Okay, once you assign the value, you cannot change the value. But some people will ask something like this, right? So we have a list string names. Okay, you're gonna create the names. So easy purpose, we do something like this: arrays dot as list. Okay, and you're gonna pass name something like this: Anil, Sunil, Harish, right? And if you mark this list as final, but still you can change the underlying data. If you want to add one more name, you can add. Okay, because we are not changing the type. We are not going to assign a different value, but we're gonna change the list. Okay, this is allowed. Okay, this is something different here. So don't get confused with the list and whenever we are using with classes and objects. Okay, so you can't reassign. So this is not allowed. For example, if you try something like this, names equals to new array list or new arrays dot something like this, then you will get a compilation error. Hey boss, list is final, can't reassign the value. But you can do this, right? You can do something like this. You can add one more name to this list. That is enough. So don't get confused with the final keyword. Okay, if you do something like this, you will get a compilation error. And but when you try like this, there won't be any compilation error. There won't be any problem. I hope it's clear for everybody. Any questions on this code snippet, whatever I wrote with respect to final? You can ask any question, that is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but Sunil, there may be cases where we need to share objects between classes, right? So in that case, actually we don't have to give final. So only static should be fine, right?
No, you no,
Objects, I'm saying.
You can use final, because when you mark it as a final, you can't reassign the value, but it can be shared across. If you want to give it to some other class, you can give. There won't be any problem. But they can't change the value. If they are trying to change the value, they will get compilation error. Okay, so you can give the value, right? So they can use it. Whenever they want to use, they can use it, but they can't reassign it. So we'll see one example. I need to be more clear. I hope everybody is familiar with Eclipse, right? I'm directly going to create a new project in Eclipse. So let me know if you have any complexities using this. Mm, few seconds first. Let me restart my Eclipse in the new workspace. Okay. So yeah, I will show one example so that it will be clear for you. Any other question in between? So I written very clearly, but I don't read all this blah blah blah, because if you understand the concept, then definition you can give like your own, right? You can give your own definition. There is no something like predefined definition. We need to go and say the same thing like how we do in academics. Nothing like that in the real time, right? So what you understand about that concept, if somebody asking an interview or you are asking an interview, then whatever their point of understanding, they will explain. So, but this is what is the definition. So instance variable without static. So we didn't discuss anything about instance, right? We are discussing only with respect to static. So if a value of static is not varied, not changing from object to object, then define that as a static variable. So in case of instance variable, for every object, a separate copy will be created. But with respect to the static variables, only one copy will be created and that's shared across all the objects. Okay. And yeah, this is we will discuss. I said, right, we can access static variables by using class name. That is allowed in Java, right? I directly accessed something like this, citizen dot country name. Why it is possible? Can somebody say? Why can I directly access a static variable or static method using class name itself? Any idea? Why that feature
Because
is?
it is a shared, yeah, because it is a shared variable and it is going to be the same copy for all the objects. That's the reason. I think.
That is the future, but why it is allowed by?
These are class level variables.
No, in the memory it will have only one copy, right? So
Exactly. So where is that memory? It is not heap memory, right? Static variables will be stored in method area. You have to look into your JVM diagram for one more time, right? Yeah, you have to refresh all your core concepts of Java, because Spring is built on top of Java only. There is nothing new. Without Java, there is no Spring, right? So whatever we are discussing now, the static variable, instance variable, class, object, static block, main method, everything will still remains in Spring. The Spring team, nothing changed. Okay, they didn't touch any Java concept. They added new features, right? There are extra features are being added on top of Java. That's it. So first you are good in Java, then learning Spring is a piece of cake. Okay, so the static variables will be stored in a method area. So usually, what will happen when you write a simple main method application, right? So let me run you an example, then it will be more clear. Let me create a simple Java project. Create project, Java project. I'm not creating any Maven or any Spring project. I'm creating very plain Java project. So I'm going to use JDK 1.8. That project name I'm going to mark as Java Basics. So the project got created. This is how we do create a Java project, and all the source file .java files will be kept inside src folder, and our IDE will automatically compile our .java files into .class file, right? Or IDE will does, right? If we don't use IDE, you have to execute Java C command. I don't use that because we are using IDE. I don't compile the Java files explicitly, but the only thing is I should check this option, build automatically. So when you check this option, all your Java files will be compiled by IDE automatically. So let me write one simple main method program and see what is going to happen. And it is always a good practice to give a package name. So let's give that. Java 4. So now we created a simple main class. I'm going to add method. So main method has a particular signature, right? The method scope should be public, and it should has to have a static keyword, the return type should be void. The main method should not return anything, and the name of the method should be main, main, and it should take an array of string arguments. That is what is the main method signature, right? So then only our Java will execute this method. If you do change anything, right? I mean, extra things can be added. You can add final, you can add synchronized. Those keywords are allowed, but if you do like main one, main two, then JVM can't understand this is the main method. So don't try to change the main method signature. So let it be there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a simple statement printing on the console. Hello guys, welcome to Java. Right. Very simple statement. Right. So to run this program, right click, run as Java application. Yeah, you got the output. So what exactly is happened when I run this code? So there is something printed on the console, very high level. But in the real world, in the background, there are so many things are happening. You know, let's list out one by one what exactly happened to print a simple statement on the console. So the very first statement, when I do right click run as, right? When I do right click as run as in Java application, there is an instance of JVM will be created. So JVM instance will be created. That is very first step. Okay, JVM instance got created. That is the first step. Then JVM loads required libraries, right? What are all the required libraries and where are they present? What are all the JVM required libraries and where are they present? So the JVM required libraries are present inside your JRE rt.jar, right? All the JVM required libraries are present inside your JRE and inside rt.jar, right? There are few required libraries needs to be loaded to process your Java application. Those will be loaded first. Then next, JVM will create a thread, right? JVM will create a thread. What is the thread? Any idea which thread will be created by defaultly?
Main
Main.
thread.
Yes, JVM will create a thread called main, and JVM will ask to load this class first, right? So JVM first create the thread, and JVM instruct the main thread to load this class first. Okay, then main class will be loaded. Main dot class, right? We are writing .java file, but that Java file will be compiled into a dot class file, right? Then only the dot class file will be executed. We can't directly execute .java file. So we have to convert this .java into .class file. Then for that purpose, we need a Java compiler. Here we are using IDE, so that's why we are not doing. We are skipping the compiler concept. So now the JVM loads this class into the memory, right? So which memory this class will be loaded? Method area, right? Method area. So you have to look into the JVM diagrams and then you can understand. There is a separate area called method area. There is certain memory will be allocated for that area. So there all the classes will be loaded. So right now we are executing one particular class. That is the reason why one class is getting loaded. But when it is a real-time project where we will play with so many number of classes, like hundreds of classes, then all classes will be loaded into the method. So, and this is a one-time task. Loading any class into memory is one-time task. Okay. So for example, in your project, you might create this for this main class for like 2 to 3 areas. So which means you are creating multiple objects in heap memory, but the class will be loaded only one time into method area. Okay, then once the main class is loaded, then main thread will execute main method. Main thread will execute main method. So from here, the business logic starts. So my business logic is printing a line of statement on the console, right? So that statement will be printed on the console. Once that is done, main method execution completes. Main method execution completes, right? Then main thread will be killed. Main thread will be killed. Finally, our JVM will be getting shut down, right? Our JVM will be getting shut. So this is what it happens in the background to execute a one line of statement. Okay. Now let's add a static variable. Let's add a static variable. So I will add a static variable in separate class, right? Whatever we discussed in employee. So let's create employee, and this employee has ID, right? Usually every employee will have an ID, and every employee will have a name, different name. So the value is going to be changed from object to object. That's why these two are instance variables. But the value is not going to be changed. That is static string company. So I'm assigning here itself directly because this value is not going to be changed. And I'm going to mark this as final. Okay. I'm going to mark this as final. Yeah. So let's create an object of employee inside the main class. To make it more simple, I'll create this employee class in main class itself. Okay, that is allowed, but we should remove the public so that things will be in the same page, right? Things will be in the same page. So let's remove this employee. Yeah. So let's create an object for this employee. Employee equals to new employee, and mark this employee name as. Okay. Let's write one constructor also to initialize the tag. Constructor int id string name. So this dot id, this is how we usually initialize the data for any Java class, right? This dot name equals to. So whenever I create an employee, I must give an ID and I must give a name. So without giving ID and name, I can't create any employee. So ID is going to be some 10,000 or some 1 lakh. Then the value is going to be minimum. Okay. So this is what my employee is meant to be. So let's create a couple of employees. Employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, right? So he's going to be 1 lakh 1, 1 lakh 2, and this let's give a different name. James is something like that. Okay. So now totally 3 employees got created. 3 employees got created, but only one copy of company name got created, right? Even though there are 3 employees got created, only one company of employee, so company will be created. So it looks something like this. When we convert this into a diagrammatical way, let's understand this. Assume that this is our JVM. So we have a particular memory called method area, and we have another area called heap memory, right? So let's understand this is our heap memory. So can somebody say how many objects we created here in the main method we wrote? Totally how many objects we created?
3.
Okay.
3.
Yes. So there are totally 3 objects will be there in my heap memory. Object 1, object 2, right? Object 2 and object 3. So in object 1, I have data something like this, right? ID some 1 lakh. Sorry, it's 1 lakh, and the name is something like Sunil Manaka. And in object 2, I have ID 1 lakh 1, and the name is James. And in object 3, we have something like this, right? ID 1 lakh 2, and the name we have E. And how we gonna get these values? By using reference variable. So the reference 1 is pointed with EMP1, and reference 2 is pointed with EMP2, and reference 3 will be pointed with EMP3. So if I wanted to print the data of employee 2, I should use this reference variable, right? Yeah. Now it's time to understand how we are accessing the static variables with class name there. Because now tell me, look at this code very carefully and tell me, in my method area, how many classes are loaded?
2.
Okay, somebody said 2. What about others? Are you okay with that guy answer? Only 2 classes are loaded? Or, but we are creating 3 objects, right? Employee 3 times we are creating. Main class, I didn't create any object. So answer carefully. How many classes are loaded?
2 on this.
Right? Exactly. How many classes are loaded? 2. In my method area, there are 2 classes loaded. One is a main. Let me mark in as capital. This is a class, right? And another one is employee. How many number of employee objects you create, it doesn't matter. The class will be loaded only once. Okay, that is one thing which we have to keep in mind. But now our question is, how can we access this employee dot name with a with class name directly, right? How can we access? Why can't we access this ID and name? Just because of this memory allocation, that future, the accessing instance variables through class is not allowed, because all the static variables, so now the company name will be stored where? In method area, not in, right? Company name will be stored where? In method area, not in the heap memory. Because of this, this variable is present in method area, right? Because this variable is present in method area, so company name is present where? In method area. ID and name present where? In heap memory, right? So the variables which are present in heap memory accessed through instance variable, accessed through instance variable and class variable also. But the variables which are present in method area, they can access only through class name, right? We can't access these variables through class name, because these two are two different method areas, right? So we have a method area where the class details will be stored, and we have a heap memory where the object details will be stored. So that is the reason why we can't access ID through class name, because there is no guarantee that object will always be created after loading the class. There are certain places where you load the class, you don't create an object, right? So there should be some conflict. These two are two different concepts. These two will be processed separately. How the class will be loaded into the memory? We have class loaders concept, right?
Hmm.
We have class loaders concept. Who takes care about loading the class into the memory? Class loaders. We have class loaders in the Java. So these loaders, there is a separate algorithm to load a class into the memory, into method area memory. So class loaders will take care about this process. So these two are two different concepts. That is the reason why we can access company name through class name, because this is storing in a method area, that is class level storage. Just because we are storing this variable in class level storage, we can access this through class. Okay, as this is not storing in class level area, we can't access these variables directly class name. So try that out. For example, you can do something like this, right? You can print employee company name directly like this. So this is private. Let's remove that. For now, company name can be accessed something like this. You can print it on the console without creating an object also. Still I can do this, if I remove the code and run the code, still the message will be printed and the company name is printed. So to print a static variable or to access static variable, object creation is completely optional. So there is no guarantee that you always create an object. That is the reason why we can directly access this variables class name, and you can't access these things with the class name. If you try to access, compiler will show an error saying that, hey, ID is not static, you can't access through class name, right? This field ID is not visible because it is not static. Right? This is an instance variable that is going to be stored in heap memory. So the heap memory data can be accessed through object, only through object. If it is not an object, you can't access. emp1 dot id. Okay. So it should not be private. I hope you know why it is not private, right? Why it is not private? Private scope is up to the class. Private scope is up to the class. If anything you mark private variable, private method, right? Private constructor, anything you marked with private, then it is going to be private. It's not visible, right? Anything is private, we can't express them to outside people, right? So private means that is within the particular class. So employee something private, that is up to that employee only, right? For example, employee ID private, which respect to the James. So this ID can be accessed within the employee. Outside of the employee, we can't access. That is what is encapsulation in Java, right? So how can we access that? By providing setters and getters. So for company name, setters, getters are not required because we can directly access the class name. That is not required. But usually, how do we achieve encapsulation? By making the fields as private and providing setters and getters. So setters to set the data, getters to get the data. We have some naming conventions for getters, right? And setters. So the setter method not supposed to return anything. So by default, it is void, right? Anybody writing any setter method in this world, what is the standard he should follow? No, he not supposed to return anything. So return type is void, scope should be public, and the method name you will always start with the setter followed by the property which you want to set. The first character will become a capital in case, and it should always take some type of data. It can be integer, string, character, any type of, but it should take some data. Okay, it should take some data, and that is what is standard of Java. And similarly, we also have a standard for getter method. It should return something, whereas setter won't return anything. Getter should always return something, and it's not supposed to take any arguments. That is what is the standard. Getter method means it's not supposed to take any argument, and it should return something, whereas the setter method should, it won't return anything, but it takes some type of arguments. That is what is the Java standard for setter and getter. And by using the setters and getters, making the fields private, we achieve encapsulation in Java, right? So that is different concept again. But anyway, let's implement encapsulation and access the data. I hope I answered the question, like why we can able to access static variables through class name directly. Okay, now is it clear for everybody? Then I will answer Viji's question, right? She's saying final means if I wanted to share between some other classes, how can we do that? Is it clear, guys? Why we are able to access only static variables, not instance variables? Because they will be stored in a different areas, right? In the terms of memory allocation. That's why we can't able to access them.
Yes, sir.
I'm getting response only from Vijay. What about others? Are you guys able to follow me? Am I going fast? Yeah, these are all core concepts of Java. Very fundamentals. Whatever we are discussing: variables, static variables, memory allocation, right? Accessing the static variables, accessing the instance variables, right? Encapsulating the Java class. All these are basic fundamentals. That's why I'm going little fast. So what I'm expecting is open your core Java books, right? Or go to some tutorial, refresh all your core concepts. That is highly recommended. Whenever we go and write any code in Spring, we do these things by default, right? We create objects, we write static variables, we write main method, especially with Spring Boot with respect to microservices. All microservices will start with the main method, which means always all the microservices will start with a main thread. There is nothing new. Since the Java born, whatever we are doing, we're gonna do the same in the microservices. There is nothing new. We do start our JVM, load libraries, create a main thread, execute the main thread. Everything is going to be same. The only thing is, on top of that, we learn few classes from Java, few Spring concepts. There are few concepts with respect to Spring, those we will learn. But again, it's a platform we are building on top of Java. So our code should be good. We have to be good in Java. So that's why for microservices, at least for Spring and microservices, right? The Java is a prerequisite. We can't, if you, yeah, obviously we forget all these things because we don't be focusing these things on daily basis. But if you just spend couple of hours, you can easily brush up all your core concepts. Right? While I'm explaining itself, you can understand. Okay, this is what is there. You know it already, but you are just making the things remember. So, are we clear whatever we discussed till now? Are any questions?
No questions so far.
Okay. I hope everybody would able to follow, right? Whatever we are discussing. Let me know if I'm a bit fast, then I can be slow, little slow. Is it is it clear, guys? I hope we
Yes.
are going on same correct speed only, right? Nothing speed, nothing slow. Yeah. So let's try to understand the final thing, right? So why we always use static with final? Because yeah, let's keep the things back as it is, right? For example, I will print the company for employee 1, right? And employee 2 and employee 3. Let's assume that I'm not going to write the 10,000 lines of code, but assume that we have 10,000 employees we are printing and we are creating and we are printing in here. Okay, let's assume that we have like some 10,000, 10 millions of lines of code. Just assume, okay? Yeah. So let's do something like this. Yeah, I created some employee called 99,000, something like that. Okay, this is my 99,000 employee. Yeah, 4 9, sir. 9,009, yeah, 99,000. So it should not suppose to start with number, right? Yeah, EMP. So this is my 99,000 employee. So my 99,000 employee name is Em. Okay, and I did a small mistake here. What I did something like this. Employee company equals to change something, right? Microsoft. And after that, I'm continuing my code, right? I'm creating, I think I made it final. Let me remove final. Without final, what is the problem? That's what we're going to see now, right? I'm going to print the employee company employee name of the 9,000, 99,000. Now I'm going to create my 1 lakh employee. So his ID going to be something different, and his name is okay. I'm going to print the employee. So till employee 99,000, we will get company name as Google printed on the console. But all of a sudden, after JVM executing this line number 23, in here it is line number 23, but when we write real 99,000, this is going to be some like 1,50,000 or 1 lakh 200, 300 line number. So let's assume that at that point of time, JVM completes this line of statement. So all of a sudden, for all these employees, the company name is going to be changed from Google to Microsoft. Right? That is huge change, that huge impact. I discussed all that in the case of Aadhaar card, right? So till now, we may have some country like India. All of a sudden, somewhere you change it to US. All the 130 crore people, the country name will get changed, right? So if I'm trying to access employee one country name, try to print this to reference. Then, so this is my 1 lakh employee company name. This is my 99,000 employee company name. This is my employee 2 company name. This is my employee 1 company name. Right. So after changing the name, if I'm trying to access employee 1 company name, still I will get Microsoft printed, right? Still I am getting Microsoft printed here. I'm not getting Google, even though at this point of time it is Google. Actual the value changed here, right? Actual value changed where? Here, line number 23 execution. Here the value is still Google only, right? We got Google, but after some time, if I'm trying to access employee 1, the value got changed because it's a one copy. If anybody modifies that copy, that will give impact to all the objects. So that is what is the problem. To avoid that problem, you usually mix static with final. Okay, static with final. So when it is final, so we will get a compilation error, right? So it is a final field boss, you can't reassign the value. If it is final, you can't change the value. Whatever the value which got assigned, it has to be there for all the time, right? If it is a final, it has to be there for all the time. You can't change the value. So by using this final keyword, at least we can provide the security. Whoever working in this company, all the people who will be under Google only, right? We can't change the value of company. At least the company name value cannot be changed. So that is what is the benefit. So let's come to the question which is asked by Viji. So what is she saying? If it is final, can I share this value to some other class? Yes, you can. Right? Yes, you can. There won't be any problem. For
No,
example, yeah.
Sunil, that was not my question. What I was saying is, if there could be some scenarios where we have to share objects, right? Like we need to do changes in other classes also. Like say if I have created 4 or 5 objects for the same class and I need to do changes, like if I have to increment a counter or something, I have a count, and if I have to increment it every time when we create an object for that time we don't need to give it as final. That's what I was saying. Final.
You can. There won't be any problem because let's assume that we have class 1 and class 2. For easy understanding, I say that we are creating a list object. Okay, list equals to arrays dot as a list. Right, it's the simplest way to creating a list object. So here a list L, let's assume this is L, right? So this L will be pointing to an object, right? L will be pointing to an object. So we created an object and which is pointed by L. So whenever you are passing this variable to this into a different class as a method argument, for example, we have a method something like this, public, return type is void. So the method name something like ABC, but it takes a list of strings names. Okay, so here we are passing that object as an argument, right? So that object will be passed as an argument. So whenever you are passing that object as an argument, you can still add some more data, right? As this is if you mark this as final, right? Yeah, if you mark this as final, so you can't reassign the value. Okay, for list you can't reassign the value, but in this list you can add one more name, but still it is possible. So with respect to object, you can't create one more object, but whatever the data which is present inside that object, right? For example, a company, right? Or an employee, you can't reassign the employee. For example, here if I mark, I'm just deleting this code as we already know this concept. Okay, so if I mark this as final, whether in this class, in this particular class or in some other class, whether you are passing it as an argument, you can't reassign the value for EMP1, employee 1, you can't reassign it. But what you can do, you can reassign the value which is present inside that object. That entire object cannot be modified, right? You can't assign it to a different object, but you can change the name. So the underlying data can be changed. Inside object, you can change the name. Okay. For example, this Java guy, and tomorrow if he becomes a Spring guy, right? Tomorrow he wants to become a Spring guy, then still it can be changed. So object cannot be reassigned, but inside object, if you want to change some data, that can be changed. If the data also type final, right? Inside this class, if the field itself is a final, you can't change that value also. So it is matter what level you define the variable. So if it is a final at class level, final is at object level. For example, final is object level. So that object cannot be reassigned, but the data can be changed. If the final is at a variable level, that variable value also cannot be changed. Okay, so to avoid these kind of problems, what is the best practice we used to do, whenever you are writing a method, most of the times you want to mark where you want to mark it as read only, define something like this: final list of string. There won't be any challenges. Okay, final list of string names. So when you mark something like this, okay, we are giving you some kind of indication saying that okay, names cannot be reassigned. The names completely reassignment won't happen, but the data can be changed. If you want to add one more name to these names, yes. If you want to remove a name from that list, from the names list, yes, you can remove, you can add, you can iterate, you can inside the list whatever the data is there, you can play with the data, but you can't play with the names. So if you try something like this, whether you try in the same class or in some other class, the error will be same. So names equals to new array list, something like this. Here you will get an error. Okay, so still you can pass it as an argument, but you can't reassign. So when you feel something is read only, mark it as final. That is what is the best practice. So most of the frameworks, if you open any Spring framework or any Java framework, most of the times they mark it as final because their intention is not to modify, use it for reading purpose, and internal data. If you want to modify, you can modify, but don't modify the complete object itself. This what we are doing. We are completely changing the names. Whatever the names are present in this variable, all will be lost. Right? We are assigning a new data. That is not a good practice. Right? That is not a good practice. So to avoid these kind of problems, mark as final. So what will happen? Compiler will show an error in. That is with respect to final I am talking. So where you don't want this kind of feature, then don't mark it as final, then the process data will be processed out. So when it is final, the entire object cannot be modified, but underlying data can be modified. Inside the variable, if you have some other property, name or something else, that can be modified, but the complete object cannot be modified.
What should we do if we want to, if we don't want to modify that data as well? Is there a way for that?
We have a class called string, java.lang.string. Any Java developer can't write any program without using this class, right? String, java.lang.string. So what is this strong point of this class?
No, immutable is for objects. I'm asking about this list, array list, right? Here you're saying that we have created an array list, and that array list, if I mark that array list as final, then I cannot reassign that array list again, but still I can add some values to it.
Yes. So to avoid that problem, in Java 8, there is a new list introduced called unmodifiable list. Okay, unmodifiable list.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Okay, so there is nothing new they did. I'll show one simple magic what Spring people does. Okay, they wrote some class called unmodifiable collection, unmodifiable map, something like that. By name, the sound it's like they did some huge thing, right? So what, in simple terms, what they did, um, they override all the methods, and whenever you are trying to modify, they are throwing an exception. By looking into the code, I really got surprised how easy it is. For example, let's go for unmodifiable. Go for unmodifiable map set. right? Go for unmodifiable list. I will open this class. You know how funny it looks like. Whenever you try to call this method, they don't do anything. They simply throw an exception. That is what they did, right? How funny it is, right? You can retrieve, you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
retrieve,
yeah.
you can retrieve, but you can't do anything. So when I say you can't do anything, it's not that much big picture. They're simply overriding method and throwing an exception. You call that method, I throw exception. That's it. It's straightforward business.
Okay.
So the name is unmodifiable list, unmodifiable map. These classes are introduced with JDK 8. If the list don't want to be modified, then use this. But there are some precautions you have to be take care of. Whenever somebody is trying to modify, they will get an exception, right? So yeah, we have to be very careful while dealing with this unmodifiable things. Object level, if it is any custom object, then you implement immutability. Right? I hope everybody
Yeah.
knows immutability. What is immutability?
The object once created cannot be modified later. So we will be having the private
Yeah,
members, and
yeah,
object will be initialized only in the constructor, and then no setters for that.
yes. So simple term, the object state cannot be modifiable. Object state, right? Object state cannot be modifiable. So when I said state, it's nothing but the properties which are present inside an object, right? When I said state, it is the properties which are present inside an object. For example, class, user, right? The term sounds like very huge, but when it is coming to the code, it looks pretty easy. Private int ID, private string name. So what is the state here? ID and name are the state of the user. That's it. Whenever you try to modify state, you modify ID or you modify name, then there is a new object will be created. So once the object created with a particular state, for example, user, right? User equals to new user with ID 1, and so name is something like Sunil Manata. Then you trying to change anything here, then it is not possible, right? In string, what will happen? You try to change the state, a new object will be created. That's it. A new object will be created automatically internally. JVM takes care about that process, right? So string is going to be taken care of separately. That is what is immutable string, right? So you try to modify any character in that string, automatically a new object will be created. So when you try to modify the state, right, it can be anything. ID, name. If your class has 100 properties, if you go for some table, right, like order table or shipping table, right? If it is coming to the real time, so it can be something like order ID, order name, right? So we have so many properties and inside this property, inside this class. If you try to modify any particular property, then a new object will be created. So that is what is called immutability. If you try to change the state of any particular object, then a new object will be created. So that is an immutability. So that's how we do maintain the concept here. So whatever, if you go for customizable, but with respect to the list, maps, sets, all the collection API, whenever we are using Java 8, we have all this unmodifiable section. So you can use with those unmodifiable section, but don't use all the time immutability or unmodifiable collection, because these are little costly, right? So every change a new object will be created, right? Every change a new object will be created. So you modify a new object, you modify a new object. When I say new object, some memory in heap space. So heap space is too costly. So unwantedly creating new objects in heap will cause out of memory error. So your application go down slowly, right? So don't try to implement immutability wherever you not required. So where you feel something is really required, then we do implement this immutability. And whenever we are discussing Spring concepts, right, immutability topic should come. Okay, don't forget this. I will ask again, what is immutability? That time after like 10 days or some 7 days, 8 days when we jump into a topic called inversion of control. Very famous interview question, right? Any person who go for not like architect level and all, but at least the developer level, like 2 to 3 years experience and go for an interview. In our academics, we used to say very, very important double star, triple star, right? So some kind of interview question. So internally, Spring use to implement this inversion of control, immutability to implement this inversion of control. Okay, inversion of control. So two types we will discuss over there, but one inversion of control is called constructor dependency injection. That particular part is built on top of this immutability only, Java immutability. So these things are interrelated. When we are learning a Java immutability, so learning constructor dependency injection is a piece of cake, right? That time the question may be for architect also. So when you go for an interview, he might ask, where do you implement constructor dependency injection? So if you know Java immutability, then answering constructor dependency injection use case is piece of cake. So that's why I'm requesting you guys, open your books, refresh all your core concepts, okay? But I will just brush up all the things whatever required for Spring and Spring Boot and microservices. But on top of that, you have to learn more. All core concept you have to refresh for one more time. Okay. Whenever we jump into the Spring, we don't discuss all these things. Yeah. So two types of variables we discuss, right? Static variable, instance variable. It will share the material. No need to note it down. Okay, whatever the material is there, all the topics whatever we discussed are present in the material whatever we have here. Okay, and every concept is discussed. Only thing is you have to read and you have to remember. Okay, this is how it works. Okay, and you have to write your own example because all these are core concepts. I'm not providing the examples. When it is coming to the Spring, I will share the project. If required, I will share this Java Basics project also. Okay, so two types of variables we discussed: static, instance, or global. We have a problem with these variables, right? With these two variables, we have a problem. Can somebody say what is the problem? Can somebody guess? Or else I'll show any project example, real-time project example, right? Called Spring RESTful web services. Let's go and see any tutorial, uh, any tutorial, see the code. You can't see a class which contains a static variable or global variable whenever we are working, especially with the real-time project. In real-time project, see this class, right? Yeah, this is the class. It doesn't have any instance variable or instance static variable, right? See here also, any example you open, I don't know whether you noticed till today or not. If you open on any example, right, any real-time project, the usage of the static variables, instance variables are very less. We don't even use 5% in our code. It should be less than 5%. Can somebody guess why? What is the problem you're gonna get if you use static variables, instance variable? Don't say the data consistency. We already discussed that problem. What is another type of problem we're gonna get? Do you know the concept called multi-threading? Right, in Java, we have a concept called multi-threading. So whenever we deploy any application in any server, for example, let's assume that this is my server, okay, it's Tomcat server or WebLogic server, whatever server it is. It's a simple server, okay. So when I deploy an application here, right, so I write some application and I deploy it here. So whenever we are trying to access this application using my browser or some other client, every request which is coming to the server, right? Every request which is coming to the server, what is that? It is a thread, right? How we have a main thread created in Java. The same way, for every request which is coming to a server, there is a thread will be created for that, right? So if there are two requests are coming to my application, there how many threads are there in my application? Like how many threads are accessing my application? Two threads, right? So there are thread one will be is using my application, thread two will be using my application. So whenever you are working with threads, okay, you have to be very, very, very careful because threads are going to be operated on objects, right? So the instance or the static data can be shared across these threads, right? Shared across these threads. So if you write instance variables or static variables, whatever the variables you are writing as static or instance, the data can be shared across the threads, right? So user one came and user two came. For example, let's discuss a funny scenario, right? Let's assume this is a banking application, right? So this is a user one and he is a fraud user, right? He doesn't have any account balance. We have a user two, right? He's a good user. He has good amount in his account. And if you define some like user variable as a global variable, right? User variable as global variable. So two threads, when these two threads are accessing this object, so we will face some kind of challenges because the same user can be shared across these two threads, right? So we may face some kind of problem. So all of a sudden, user one will get some account withdrawal, right? When he went to some ATM and put his ATM card, and even though there is no balance, he can still withdraw some money if you define instance variable, right? So it looks simple, right? Whenever we said, okay, instance variable declaration looks simple, but in the real-time application, there are so many challenges because all the instance variables, static variables, data shared between the threads. Okay, so we may get data inconsistency problems. Right? If it is India, it's fine. We will take the money and we will enjoy. After some time, bank realize it, and if it is less amount, they will deposit. If it is huge amount, we go for the police. But if it, what about US? This fellow will withdraw the money and complain, give a complaint saying that I don't have balance and I got the money, right? So that's how the usually these people will complain, right? So he still take the money and he complains. So I don't have money. So my banking application is not working properly. I'll put some case. Right? If it is India, we usually don't care that much. But so whenever we are working on any application, defining instance variables, static variables is not recommended because the data can be shared across all threads. Okay, so that is what is the problem. Then what is the solution? Hey guys, did you understand the question? Whatever I asked?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, then what is the solution?
Create a method variable, sir.
Yeah, we have one more type of variable called local variable. What is a local variable? Right, the solution is simple. Use local variables instead of global variables. Right?
Method level variable.
Yes, exactly. Method level variable, which is nothing but any variable which declared inside a method is a local variable. Is it only method level? Can you make this session as more interactive? Please try to respond.
So it's not only a method, I mean.
Exactly. It can be inside a block, right? If condition, or inside a loop, right? So all the variables which declared, any variable which declared inside a loop or inside a block or inside a method is called a local variable. So the scope of that particular variable is up to that method or up to that block or up to that loop. So what is the difference between instance variable and local variable with respect to the multi-threading? How the multi-threading is giving trouble in instance variables and static variables? Why it is not giving trouble in local variables? Okay, it's time to see the JVM diagram. Okay.
Each thread has its own stack memory. So these variables will be created in that stack memory. Is that the case?
Exactly. So we discussed about method area, we discussed about heap area. Now it's time to discuss about stack area. So for each thread, JVM will create a separate stack, and whatever the methods which are calling will be present inside the thread. So whenever you are writing a method and creating that variables inside that method, right? So for each and every thread, it's going to have its own copy, right? If you create something like this, for example, public class user controller or something like that, user controllers. I'm just example purpose I'm showing this. Don't get confused what is controller at this point of time. Once we learn into jump into Spring MVC, then you can understand what is controller. Now let's assume this controller is a class where it holds user information. If you write something like this, public user equals new user, right? Or we get this data from some DB or some service or something like that. That is what it happens in the real time. Okay. And this controller is one time only we created, right? For example, this controller, okay, let's mark it as servlet. That very plain thing, servlet. So all the servlets will be created only one time. So we have only one object. So the user also going to be one. And inside this method, if you try to access that user info, public void process user. So the same user info can be shared across all the threads who are executing this method, right? So three threads are if three threads are processing this object, then three threads will execute this method. So three threads can share this data if it is an instance variable, because this is going to be this is going to be stored in heap memory, right? This is going to be stored in heap memory, and threads are going to be there in stack memory, right? So if just I cut this and put this, now this become thread local to the thread, right? For each and every thread will have a user, right? Each and every thread will have a user. Instead of sharing the user information across all threads, now my user information is going to be different from thread to thread. So when I said thread, each request from client, right? So you open browser, send one, you just type some URL, right? So that is one request. So one request means one thread in server. So so like that, if multiple users are open browsers and accessing the application, there are multiple threads are coming. Still, there is no problem because every thread will have their own copy. How? Because internally JVM creates a separate stack for every thread, and that information is going to be stored here. JVM stack memory. Okay, inside JVM stack memory, that information is going to be stored. So the problem using instance variables and local variables is, instance variables and static variables is, we will get a data inconsistency problem in multi-threaded environment. Don't think there is a separate environment. If you deploy your code in server, by default you are keeping your code in multi-threaded environment unknowingly, right? So that is the reason why we should avoid as much as using instance variables, global variables. Wherever it is possible, try to define local variables, because local variables are thread safe and it has good memory management, right? Once the thread execution completes, this whatever the user object is eligible for garbage collector. If you mark this as instance variable, then user variable can't be deleted by garbage collector until unless the user servlet is eligible for garbage collector, right? So if you use local variables, then garbage collector will work effectively. Garbage collector will release the memory effectively. Okay, so it is a very good programming practice to use local variables, not to use instance variables and static variables. Okay. But depends upon use case. We do use, but very, very, very rare. And especially when we are working in any multi-threaded environment, which is nothing but if your code is going to be deployed in any server, even microservices also not exception. Okay, all the microservices will run on a particular server, which is nothing but your microservice is going to be operated in a multi-threaded environment. Okay, So we have to avoid as much as using static variables and instance variables. What we have to use? We have to use local variables. Okay, local variables. So local variable is nothing but a variable which defined inside a method, or a variable which defined inside a block if condition, or a variable which is defined inside a uh, uh, for loop. Okay, so this is all about variable concepts in Java. Static, there are two types of variables at very high level: primitive variable, reference variable. Again, these two can be classified into three sections. One is static variable, next is instance variable, the last one is local variable. Right? In the real time, we do use local variables a lot because our code will be in multi-threaded environments. If we don't use local variables, we will get data inconsistency problems. To avoid those problems, we do use local variables a lot. So this is all about, and we also discussed where those variables will be stored, right? Static variables will be stored in method area, where the class will be loaded, and that is going to happen only one time. There is an algorithm in Java to load the classes into memory, and that algorithm is going to be taken care by the class loaders. We have Bootstrap class loader, application class loaders, right? So that is going to be a complete concept, different concept, and objects will be created in heap memory, and whereas the local variables will be stored in a stack memory. So these three are three different things. So any questions on the things or on the topics whatever we discuss today? I know all these are basics, right? Yeah. Yeah. Any questions? Sorry, I interrupted.
No, not right now.
No, sir.
We are good, right? Yeah, this is the basic funda, guys. Fine, we are just refreshing the things we knew already. These things we already know. We are just refreshing the things, right? So it's fine. Don't think that when we jump into the spring, I go this much fast. As these are core concepts, right? We will be going little faster. But tomorrow, when we discuss about Java 8 features like Lambda expressions, Stream API, there are few enhancements happen, right? Let me open the index section, whatever we want to discuss. So today, this is what we discuss: static variables, instance variables, local variables, reference variables. Very, very fundamental, basic we discussed today. But tomorrow also it's going to be basic. These are all things there since the Java born, right? It's almost around 20, more than 20 years. All these things are there, still there, and will be there in the future also. Even with the latest version of Java 14.1.4, with that version also, still all these concepts are there. There is nothing changed. Okay. Uh, yeah. So once we jump into this Java 8 features, right? Functional interfaces, Lambda expressions, Stream API. Even in multi-threading also, there are few new concepts introduced with Java 1.8 called completable feature, non-blocking API. So that time, and we will also discuss about annotations, how to write annotations, what are the predefined annotations, how to write custom annotation, and how we're going to process it. So whenever we are discussing about those things, I will be a little slow, not the fast like how we are discussing today. So today, if I'm a bit fast, please bear with me, guys, for like 2 to 3 sessions, then you will understand. Okay. If no questions, then we can wind up the session today and tomorrow. From tomorrow, tomorrow is Saturday. So what you guys say? Can we have a session? Day 2, right? Let's have a session, I believe. Hello?
Yeah, Sunil, for me, I'm okay with Saturday, but maybe a little late.
Okay. No, there are people who are attending from US. For them, it is too late.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So,
then fine, Sunil. Whatever others are fine, then I'm okay with anything.
as tomorrow is weekend, we can extend little bit. If like today we are winding up like 9:50, we can continue till like 10:15 or something like that. We can have 2 hours of session. so we can discuss more things.
Yeah, okay. So it will be 8:15, right?
The same time,
Starting.
sharp 8:15. What about others? Is it okay, guys? Can we have a session tomorrow?
Yeah, it is okay.
Yeah,
Venkat?
fine, Varun.
I'm also okay.
Yeah, thanks, Sylvia. Okay, then guys, tomorrow we're gonna have a session at 8:15. I will share this recording to you. So you will get an email, right? The meeting you will get a Gmail, and any assignment if I give it, right, that also you will get an email. So check your emails frequently. It is coming from my email ID, right? So this is what my email ID. So most probably the meetings going to be uh, meeting schedules are going to be through Gmail, and I will upload these recordings to Google Drive and share. So you will get every communication is going to happen through Gmail, guys. So please check your emails.
Yes,
Okay,
sir. Thank you.
thank you, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thanks.